Hey there everybody, and welcome back to more Sword of Etheria. So, before we go rushing off into Theologia, we might as well go ahead and make a few quick stat upgrades because, well, wouldn't you know it, in our efforts to work up Phil and Almira, we've been totally neglecting Leon, and that has caused him to fall a little bit behind the group, but we can make a few quick additions, and we'll get him pretty much back on par with Phil. Though, after we buy these stat upgrades, we don't really have enough to buy any more stat upgrades, but with my knowledge of what lies ahead, it does give us a prime opportunity to look into some of these elemental damages. Now, for what's coming up ahead, I'm going to go ahead and go with the freezing element. That's cold. And normally I would like to get the material, but it is very expensive. Another thing to keep in mind is that the factor will take up an equipment slot, so I'm going to have to do a little bit of quick rearranging. Because, I mean, if we got some equipment laying around, we might as well go ahead and use it, since none of our other characters are currently equipped with anything. And it's not really going to be that big of a difference. I mean, they've been able to survive just fine without these, so it's just a nice little bonus, but without further ado, I think we are ready. So let's go ahead and check and see just what holds in store for us in Theologia.
That's Theologia.
That's right. The castle of the gods.
The Etheria are suffering.
Did you think an ordinary human could use Etheria or a Lex?
Huh? What's the matter, kid?
I don't know what's bothering you. But please tell me you haven't forgotten our original objective.
I haven't forgotten.
Hey, kid. You're not gonna forget my objective either, are you? I'm only hanging out with you because we're going to the same place, you know.
No, I won't forget yours either.
Fine, then. Well, let's go.
Not the most expressive guy.
Right. Let's go.
And welcome to the fiery hellscape that is apparently Theologia. Or, at least what you can assume to be the outskirts of Theologia. Yeah, this was probably not what you were expecting when you were hearing the realm of the gods, but it does kind of bring up an important factor in that for all of our journeys throughout this game, we've only been hearing things about the gods, not really knowing, well, too much about them. We can assume that they are at least powerful, they can create all these horrible beasts to fight us, and they can manage to take mental and physical control of the Katina, but just what type of gods are they? Are they huge looming fiery beasts living in this damnable place, or are they just residing here for some other purpose? Well, the only way to find out is to keep pressing forward, and that is the purpose of all these new ords. Instead of placing up barriers, the ords will be necessary to rise up platforms to allow us further egress into this, what I assume to be, volcano. And since we are in a fiery new world, we are dealing with brand new variants of the lizardmen. We've seen part of what they can do, in that they, well, after you do even a minimal amount of damage, or even just barely get their attention, they will start a fuse on their head, which will lead to them exploding, which, as you can imagine, makes juggling them a little bit more difficult, especially if you are not right on top of juggling. Overall, though, they don't really have more health, and they don't really do more damage. The main danger is just from the explosions themselves. Also, I do really like the new environment here. I was getting a little bit tired of desert and indoor temple. Yeah, as we head inside, we are given what appears to be a very large arena, and though I am itching for a fight, one does not come. Yeah, this is just a big, wide open transition area. There are a few chests to allow some easy healing items. Because while it may not seem like the explosions are that much to deal with, they can really throw you off, especially when you have to deal with additional enemies, and just the fact that, well, your main focus here is really dealing with the Ords. This is another stage where you're going to get most of your rank by going through the level as quickly as possible, not really getting bonuses from too much Etheria, because as you can probably have already seen, the fiery frogmen do not give more in the way of Etheria. They still only give like 10 to 15. But hey, we finally get to see just the effects of that freezing factor we put on. I mean, we have been subtly seeing the effects and the lower damage, but yeah, sometimes after we do our deadly moves, our death blows, it will cause the enemy to be temporarily incapacitated in ice. But, well, I'll get into later why the trade-off really isn't that great.
Come on, Almira!
Run away! Field!
Here we go!
For now, I do want to be especially careful getting across this stone bridge here, because there is a brand new enemy here, one you will not be seeing too often in the game. Let's see if we can't, see if we can't get a better, stop it. See if we can't get a better look at these flying fiery fish here. Yeah, there is a reason to kill these things, but first, just showed off a technique I haven't really been using too much in the game, and that is if you manage to, well, block at a very small window of time, you will manage to daze the enemy. And while you may think this would be a great skill to practice and get down, not really. More often than not, you really just want to get a juggle through, or you want to get the enemy dazed through normal means, and not try to gamble on getting a window of opportunity to block properly. Also, well, blocking is kind of a fool's game in this game overall, along with trying to work the camera. The camera is not your friend. But there is a reason to kill these things. And yep, it's because they are the way to get the collectible. And it's a lot worse than you might think, because it's not just a specific fish that will give you the collectible. Instead, it is one of any of those fish that might appear. It's, as far as I can tell, very random. And, well, if you manage to kill a fish over the lava or knock the fish into the lava half dead and it manages to die off screen, well, there is a good chance that that means you have lost the chance of that collectible, because as far as I know, only one collectible will spawn, and if it just happens to be off camera where you can't see it, or if it's, in that one random fish you managed to not get, well, then prepare to redo the level over again to get that really horrible collectible. And what made it even worse overall, in trying to get it in previous recordings, was, well, if you're not good at the perfect blocking function, I'm not sure if it actually has a proper in-game name, but yeah, if you don't manage to or if you don't manage to block the fish into a state of being dazed, then you just try to fight it offhand, you're more than likely going to knock it into the lava, and you're going to lose the collectibles. So I definitely didn't spend a solid hour figuring that out. But more importantly, you may have noticed that there were quite a larger number of Ords overall for this level, and that's because, well, most of them are shoved more tightly packed together. And depending on how well you do with juggling and death blows and, exploding enemies, it could either be very easy, or it can be like it is right now and be a little bit tedious.
Here we go!
Especially if you manage to just nick one of them and not destroy it. You can sometimes get lucky and manage to get 2 of the Ords at once if you use the shockwave after the initial spin, but yeah, most of the Ords are not positioned in such a way to allow that. At least the stage has a nice enough ability to give us a never-ending stream of exploding frogmen, but we can really waste a lot of time. Also, while there is nothing immediately apparent that happened, we just need to backtrack a little bit and head to that large central room. Hopefully you manage to not accidentally open up these chests and lose those healing items, because trust me when I say that while the explosions may not seem that damaging, they can really start to add up over time. But, I mean, we only have 7 Ords left. It really can't be that difficult, right? Well, it kind of depends. I think I've mentioned before, but these non-shield wielding enemies, super evasive, and they pretty much require you to work in tandem with a partner. Otherwise, they will just constantly dodge you. And if you are skilled enough with the perfect block, they can be a little bit easier. But, well, another minor or majorly difficult thing about trying to do a perfect block in this game is that most of the enemy attacks don't really have a noticeable tell. So if you're trying to wait for a flash or, an auditory cue, you're really not going to get one. You're just going to get stabbed in the back over and over again by a lance-wielding asshole. And yes, more often than not, don't even worry about trying to get Etheria and waste your death blows on just normal enemies. You're not going to get as much as you really need to get a good rank on this level.
I'm here! Leon!
Yeah, it's just almost to the end of the stage. And it is a good idea to remember that you do have radar. Sometimes it's easy to forget Ord locations or just, general, there's just a general sense of what is going on around you. And it's super easy to miss that radar in the lower right hand, but it can be pretty helpful when you're trying to get a feel where everything is going on. But yeah, so far, I will fully admit, it seems like I'm not doing so great on this level. A part of that, I feel, is due to that freezing factor. Now, it does help a tiny bit in regards to these fire enemies. Not a great deal, mostly because it only helps whenever you do death blows, and, well, we weren't really hurting for damage on death blows in the first place. The main problem is the fact that it lowers your overall damage, I think. And considering not every enemy in this level is going to be a fire enemy, I think it's only the exploding enemies and maybe the flying fiery fish, yeah, you're going to end up losing a lot of overall damage to try to get a little bit of a elemental, advantage over just a few enemies. So, yeah, for the most part, if you're playing this yourself, I'd say save your money, save your Etheria, and stay away from the elements. I think even the ones that don't give a debuff to you, I'd still say, spend it on something else. But yeah, after we dealt with that initial wave, we do get the unpleasant appearance of two very large rockmen, but somehow or another, our juggles really started to work out, and yeah, I'm honestly not even sure how we managed to get up to a 16 times multiplier, but yeah, just in about that 20-second period, we managed to double the amount of Etheria we got over the entire chapter. Which is pretty good overall. I mean, for the most part, this is never going to be a really rewarding chapter in the sense of Etheria. It's just, something you want to push through as quickly as possible. Yeah, one last quick juggle. Here we go! Check out this final orb. And that opens up access to our boss fight.
So, you fools have found your way here, have you?
Gollum again.
I won't let you defile this sacred place any longer. I hereby carry out the will of the gods.
Hey, you sure you can handle this all by yourself? You ran away with your tail between your legs even when there was two of you.
What did you say? You understand nothing. That young lady was only getting in my way. Alone, I'm more than enough for the likes of you. Unlike you, I don't need to huddle together in a frightened group.
You don't get it, do you? There's a reason why Oz is 3 people!
Enough! What right do you have to talk about Oz? A traitor who has dishonored its name? I'll shred that mouth of yours so you'll never speak again!
So who is ready for another tough fight with Gollum? And indeed, this is a much tougher fight than we had with him and Juju. Not only in the fact that we have to deal with 3 enemies at once, we also don't get the added benefit of Juju sometimes dazing Gollum. And most importantly, Gollum has decided to stop playing with this and go into his full rage mode, which allows him a little bit of extra defense, extra damage, something that will pop up a little bit later on. But for right now, we do get to see a few of his attacks. We've seen, his great and astounding belly flop. He has a really quick dash he'll do a shoulder charge with. And if you're close enough, he will just do a quick rapid-fire succession of blows, which can be pretty difficult to deal with, but if you manage to properly team up against him, you can manage to daze him. And if you're especially lucky, you can get a few quick juggles on him, though if you're really wanting to work up that tension meter, I'd more strongly recommend fighting the never-ending adds he summons. Especially this little hunchback guy here. He's a lot more easier to deal with than the guy with the lance. But yeah, while the first part of Gollum's health bar was marginally easy to deal with, he becomes a much different story once you get him down to half health. That's when he decides to start doing his shoulder tackle a lot more, which at first you can manage to block, but yeah, now that he is flashing even more, that means that pretty much all of his attacks are no longer going to be dodgeable. And yeah, you already saw his little special Uber attack there. So he'll slam down and do a small AoE. Yeah, we are in a very, very bad spot right now.
Stop me!
Just barely managing to survive. But yeah, for right now, we just want to be a little bit defensive. Try to get our buddies up. Because we definitely don't want to game over at this point. If at all possible, try to work up a little bit of our tension meter, because I think one more death blow might be enough. Or not. Ah, just slightly off time there. But it's okay. As long as that final blow gets in, we win. So while we managed to free another Katina from the grip of the gods, that's still kind of a minor factor, in that we still need to push further into Theologia and figure out what mysteries lie in store. See you next time.